Hi, welcome to this lecture about verb tenses. In this lecture, we will study the use of the verb tenses throughout your paper. In preparation for this lecture, you've been working in activity 7.6, and first we will explore the answer key. After that, I will scan the basic rules with you. The good news here is that these rules are strict and easy to apply. This slide gives a quick overview of the basic verb tenses. Note that the simple tenses are those without an auxiliary verb, such as to have. The perfect tenses do have an auxiliary verb. Sentence 1. Many historians have questioned this interpretation of the events. Now, why the present perfect here and not the simple past? The answer is because the emphasis is on the fact that this act started in the past and currently is ongoing. That's the specific meaning that is attached to the present perfect tense. The action has not finished yet. If your answer here was many historians questioned the past simple, you in fact state that they did so in the past, but they are now quite certain about it. They stopped questioning it. If your answer was a question, the present simple, then you meant that they are doing it at this very moment, which of course may be the intention of the author, but in the context of the sentence, it's not very likely. The same explanation goes for the second sentence. It has been recognized by many writers that this is a fallacy. Many writers recognize this is a fallacy quite for some time already, and they are still doing so. So it started in the past, still doing it. 3. A common method to test this self-efficacy of patience is, now this one was easy, you use the present simple tense for facts and shared viewpoint or knowledge. Something is the case. We all agree. 4. Since the introduction, this has been the standard procedure. Also a fact, but the emphasis in this sentence is on the starting point in the past, so the past perfect. 5. Smith and Jackson used a survey to assess. Now, Smith and Jackson did this in the past, but the action has been closed off. So the past simple is the best choice. They are not still using the survey at this very moment anymore. The action has been finished. 6. The aim of this paper is to report on. Now, the perspective of the paper is always the present tense, being the perspective of the reader. In contrast to 7, where you have a choice, the aim of this study is/was to examine. Here you have a choice. You can either say is, and this is the viewpoint of the study in the present moment, the paper being a reporting of the happening at this moment. And when you choose the past simple, also a possibility, as if you are looking back on your study that was carried out on which the paper is now reporting. So check papers in your own field and you will notice that both choices occur. It's just the preference of the writer. The methods, very simply. Mostly the past simple, sometimes you need the present simple, sometimes you need a little switch. But in the big line you will use the past simple, like in first, the subjects were instructed to indicate. Now, let's focus on this structure, were instructed. In the methods, the past simple is the leading tense. You report actions that you carried out somewhere in the past and you're now done with it. So, no past perfect tenses here. Just stick to the past simple. We measured, we analyzed, we listed, etc. Now, probably you will use the passive voice frequently here, and that's why in the exercise sentence you read were instructed. A was measured, B was listed, C was analyzed. Now note that these are all past simple tenses. The verb to be is the passive part of the verb phrase. It's not an auxiliary. The present perfect tense in the passive voice here would be B has been listed, C has been analyzed, but that is not what we mean. We analyzed, we listed, but we're done with it. The actions are finished. So we use the past simple and probably many present past simple tenses. Now, if you are confused, go back to the lecture about the passive voice, study the slide with the verb tenses in active and passive voice. The same rule, by the way, is active in the results sections. A increased, B decreased, C grew, D shrank, all past simple tenses, and probably also some passive simple tenses. Passive past simple tenses. Just like in the second sentence here, we distributed the questionnaires among past simple active voice. Third, the method we used here is the most effective way of testing. Now in this sentence you see a simple past structure we used, as well as a simple present structure is the most effective way. You use the simple past to point at a moment in the past, and then there's a switch to the present because the method is at this moment the most effective way of testing common knowledge. The results. Likewise, lots of past simple tenses and some present tenses. 1. A positive correlation was found between X and Y. So you see here a passive construction, but a past simple. It's the passive alternative for we found a positive correlation. 2. The outcomes are shown in table 3. Same thing, again, a passive voice and a simple past. Of course, you may also write here, table 3 shows the outcomes, which would be my choice. I meant to say simple present tense here, of course. It's not a simple past. I hope it's clear. The discussion. In the discussion, we see an important switch in tense. Exactly at the moment you are reflecting on your results and then start explaining what they really mean. So this is an important switching point in the discussion. It's a switch from the past simple, we found, towards the present simple, this means. This is a very important point because the present simple signals that you are now presenting new knowledge. First, you need to choose a perspective when you start out with your discussion. You may use either the perspective of the research as now happening or finished, with the emphasis on reflecting on it. Both are possible. Check the literature in your field and you will find both ways to put it. Like in the first sentence, the main question in this research is or was. So both perspectives are possible. Just choose one of them. Sentences that rephrase the hypothesis, however, will be in the past simple. We hypothesized that, blah, 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 etc. Sentence 3 is an example of this use in the present tense that I've just been describing. The current study finds that X is a major factor in. So here you need the present simple twice to give your finding the status of new knowledge. Very important. Sometimes this switch will occur in mid-sentence. Read with me, sentence 4. The incidence of each cardiovascular outcome increased with time from diagnosis. So here you are rephrasing a result, so past simple. And then there's a switch, which suggests that the long-term impact, blah, blah, blah. So this switch to the present simple signals and states the meaning of the finding in the now, in the present. So it gets kind of the status of new knowledge. And you will continue using this present tense in many sentences in your discussion. These findings are consistent with. Our result differs from earlier research. The strength of this study includes its large population. So when you are explaining the limitations, implications, but also the meaning of the results, always use the present simple in your discussion. Very important. Now, of course, at some points, small shifts to the past are necessary when you describe something that happened and is now finished. Like in 8, the current investigation was limited by. Now here you need the past simple, but try to always finalize in the present tense. The results of this study support the hypothesis that blah, blah, blah. So, as a wrap up, let's go swiftly through the rules and the occurrence of the several tenses in the sections of your paper. Introduction, present simple, to describe general background in the beginning. The physical process of fragmentation is relevant to cancer, is the main cause of death. Easy. You won't go wrong there. You use the present perfect probably now and then in your introduction to describe the problem till now, and then to emphasize the currency. Persistence has most often been studied in. Several studies have evaluated but has never been systematically reviewed. A passive structure there has been reviewed. Note that 3 tenses are possible when you, in the introduction, use author-specific citations or paraphrases. Read with me. Jones measured the components of blah, blah, blah. So here the past simple, simple enough. You focus on the research. What did they do? The action has finalized. So past simple. Second example, Huet mentions the need to investigate. Now he did it in 2014, but you focus on the reporting. What do Huet and his group report? So it's relevant in the present. So you can signal that by using the present simple here. There's also a possibility that you need the present perfect here. Have shown. Jones and his group have shown that the components of blah, blah, blah. So past perfect here because you focus on what they found and it's still important. It's an ongoing important action, in fact. So that's what the have shown structure signals. So these 3 examples may be of help when you're a bit in doubt on what tense to use when you want to refer to a research of others. In the methods, simple enough, the past simple, and sometimes the present simple. So blah, 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 this was not possible. Patients provided written consent. And somewhere halfway this paragraph, you need the present simple to explain or state something that is common knowledge. This form of masking is common in cluster randomized trials and avoids, so this is a present tense. So there's sometimes you need to switch. But it comes natural here. I think this will not be a problem. The results, a lot of past simples, of course, sometimes passive, were predicted, was observed, sometimes active, CHIP assay revealed significantly lower binding. Discussion. When you state the answer to your question, try to stick to the present simple. Our results show that this is the case. So that's really strong and it communicates this is our new knowledge. This is what we found. And state it in the present simple. in your discussion, when you reflect on your study, there is the present simple, and when you look back, there's the past simple. Now, I've explained it now several times. I hope it's clear. Our study has several limitations. This is a reflection. When we designed this, there was no. So sometimes you need to step back to the past, take another perspective, and then go back to the now. Well, I hope this was a clear explanation. Here, a quick overview as a kind of a wrap-up. If you have any doubts or questions, or if something was unclear, please let me know. You can always send me an email or post a message on the platform. Go check for the use of tenses in papers from your field. It will take a few minutes, but it's one of the best ways to gain insight in language skills like these.